Hello and welcome to the final video in our trigonometry series. In this case, we're going to be looking for missing sides and angles using cosine law. And I'm going to show you kind of your first step. And your first step will always be don't use cosine law. Cosine law is longer, it's more complicated to use, it's more prone to error. And because of that, I would say first you look to see if you can use sine law. So remember, sine law you can always use when you have a matching side and angle. So we know side h, we would need to know angle h, which we don't. We know side r, we would need to know angle r, which we don't. We have angle b, but we don't know side b. And so that means that sine law is out. Okay? What we're looking for is side b, and in order to find side b, we need to use cosine law then. That's our only choice. We can't use right angle trigonometry with the primary trig ratios or SOHCAHTOA because we don't have a right angle. And so we're left with cosine law. It should be your last resort. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to think about this, and I know I want side b, so I'm going to use the form with b squared. So b squared equals r squared plus h squared minus 2rh cosine b. Okay. Now we're just going to plug in everything we know. So I'm going to use my red, which I've been trying to do, and we're going to use 4.2, and we're going to have 4.5 for h, and I'm just going to write them all in, 4.2 and 4.5 and 26 degrees. I know this looks funny, but I'm just trying to use my red so it looks sensible when we're done. Okay, this is going to be squared plus minus 2 times all of this stuff, cosine 26 degrees. Okay, so now we just have some calculations to do. So let's do 4.2 and 4.5 squared. So let's jump over to our familiar calculator. So 4.2 squared plus 4.5 squared equals 37.89. So let's write that in. So we have 37.89, and that's these two put together. Now I'm going to do this part together, 2 times both those numbers. So 2 times 4.2 times 4.5 gives me 37.8. So back here, we're going to put in minus 37.8 cosine 26. Now you'll notice that in the sine law video, I did this a lot quicker. I tried to put in big pieces into the equation. Now, I'm being careful this time because cosine law is just more prone to mistakes. So I'm going to do cosine 26 separate as well. So cosine 26 degrees is equal to 0.8987. 8987. So 37.89 minus 37.8 times 0.8987. Okay, let's just keep plugging away at this. So now I'm going to do these together. So 37.8, and notice I'm following BEDMAS in my simplification, and that's where a lot of people mess up. They end up doing something like 37.89 minus 37.8 and then multiplying by cosine 26. But we know by BEDMAS you have to do multiplication before addition and subtraction. Okay, so this is really important. It's the most common mistakes that we see in cosine law. So 37.8 times that number that's already on the screen. So we've got 0.8987 times 38 point, no, I forget. So we got 37.8. So 37.8 times 0.8987 which gives us 33.97. .89 minus 33.87, I think. Let's double check. 33.97. So let me clean that up. 0.97. So now this is just simple as subtraction. 37.89. 37.89 minus that gives me 3.9191. So 3.92. All of this is equal to b squared. So now I just need the square root of that number, which I can do like that. Give me 1.98. Okay. So b is equal to the square root of 3.92. So b is equal to 1.97. I think. Keep forgetting these numbers. 98. All right, let's clean that up. I'm just going to change that to an 8. Okay, now we were dealing in kilometers, so this also has to be in kilometers. If this was a word problem, you'd write a conclusion and you'd be finished. Okay, so again, the key here was just follow BEDMAS in your simplification, you'll be just fine. So what did we do? We wrote out the expression or the equation for cosine law that has this variable. The two remaining variables take the place of a and c that we had in the cosine law that we wrote out in the derivation video. We plug in our values, see all the red values, and then it's just simplification all the way down, and to solve the equation we just take the square root and we're all done. Okay, so that's how you find a missing side. Now what if you're trying to find a missing angle? Well, let's just try to find, I don't know, let's look for angle R here. It doesn't really matter. Now the key is that if you don't label your sides, you're going to mess up. Okay, so little r across from big R, little h across from big H, little b across from big B, and then we're looking for the one that matches with the r's. So our form is going to be r squared is equal to h squared plus b squared minus 2hb cosine big R. Okay, now it's not really any different than what we did before. We're just plugging in what we know. So let's use our red again for our substitutions. We've got 16.5 for the r's. Okay, only one r appears. Then we've got h is 10, so 10 squared, 10. We've got a 10 here. And for b, we've got 15. Okay, everything else just carries down from the other equation. Cosine big R. And now this is just a matter of simplification again. Okay, so I'll just do the ones that I know first. So I've got 100, that's what 10 squared is. 15 squared is 225. 2 times 10 is 20. Let's do it this way instead. 10 times 15 is 150, times 2 is 300. So minus 300 cosine R. Now I don't know what 16.5 squared is quickly, so let's just do that on a calculator. So 16.5 squared, 272.25, 272.25. Now, be careful here. These are just two numbers added together. You can do that. So that's 325 minus 300 cosine R. Now, the big mistake people make is now they do this subtraction. But these aren't like terms. This is 300 cosine R's. This is just 325. You can't add or subtract unlike terms. Okay, so you're kind of stuck at the moment. You have to think of your goal now. You want to get cosine R by itself so that eventually you can do R is equal to the cosine inverse of some number. Okay? So you need to get the cosine r by itself. So let's get closer to that goal by getting rid of that 325 from both sides. Okay, so I'm just going to subtract 325 from both sides. So minus 325 over here as well. Okay, that gets rid of this. And on this side, we're left with minus 300 cosine r. Okay, now going over here, we're just going to do 272.25 minus 325, and we get minus 52.75. Don't lose your negatives. Okay? Really important. Now, we want cosine r by itself. So what are we going to do? We're going to divide both sides by minus 300. Okay, so when we do that, we get 0.1758. 0.1758. And that is equal to cosine r, but not angle r. Okay, don't fall for that trick. So many times I've seen that. Okay, r is equal to the inverse cosine of 0.1758. So that's our last step. So we go over here. So the inverse cosine of 0.1758. And what do we get? About 80 degrees. So r is equal to about 80 degrees. Okay, now does it make sense that it's 80 degrees? It is going to be the biggest angle in this triangle. So that seems like a pretty good indication that we're on the right track. Okay, so that should tell you how to use cosine law. So now if we backtrack, we can do missing sides and angles for right angle triangles. We can do missing sides and angles for non-right angle triangles when there's a match. That's when we use sine law. When there's not a match, we jump to cosine law, and now we should be able to find missing sides and angles using cosine law as well. So good luck with your problems.